Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something kind of wild, a deeply counterintuitive truth about what really makes a business explode overnight. If you've ever looked at a massively successful brand and thought, I just don't understand how they got so huge, well, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to decode the secret formula that separates completely invisible businesses from the ones that absolutely dominate their markets. Okay, let's dive right into this. When you think about what makes a business just absolutely explode overnight, what's the very first thing that pops into your head? Probably the product, right? We've all been taught that building a better mousetrap automatically guarantees success. But I really want to challenge you to rethink that assumption right now. Having a great product is awesome, but as we're going to see from the real-world evidence, it is almost never the actual spark that creates an overnight explosion. See, the old school playbook says, build an amazing product, try to sell it, and just pray people notice. But the smartest entrepreneurs operating today, they flipped the entire script. They don't start by selling. They focus entirely on generating attention first. Because honestly, before someone can even judge how great your product is, they literally have to know you exist. Attention is the absolute prerequisite to every single transaction.
Now listen carefully. This trick is game changer. Decided to make people curious first. The pizza shop had been struggling for months. Same recipes, same prices, same location. But every night, the tables stayed empty. Meanwhile, bigger restaurants nearby were packed with customers. The owner tried everything: discounts, flyers, social media ads. Nothing worked. And slowly, he realized the painful truth. People weren't ignoring the pizza. They were ignoring the business. Because in today's world, if nobody is paying attention to you, it almost doesn't matter how good your product is. That's when he came up with a strange idea. Instead of trying to convince people the pizza was amazing, he decided to make people curious first. So one morning, he placed a huge sign outside the restaurant.
Section 1. The Desperate Pizza Shop, a story of near bankruptcy. Let's look at a real-world example of this. So picture this. A local pizza shop owner is on the brink of losing everything. Zero customers coming through the door. Zero foot traffic walking by. Total ghosting. He was facing the very real reality of going under and desperately needed a miracle. But instead of, tweaking his pizza recipe, he goes outside of his failing shop and slaps a massive, impossible-to-miss sign right on the sidewalk. And that sign read, "Free pizza for anyone who waits 3 hours." Just think about that for a second. 3 hours for a slice of pizza. At first, the public reaction was exactly what you'd expect. People walked by, pointed, and laughed. It seemed completely unhinged, just the desperate, crazy act of a failing business owner. But here's the crazy part. The laughter didn't last very long, because the very next day, the dynamic completely shifted. A line actually started to form outside the shop. At first, it was just a handful of curious folks willing to trade an afternoon for a free meal. But then, as more people jumped in, the line physically grew. Soon, you've got hundreds of people standing shoulder to shoulder on the sidewalk. And suddenly, this failing shop wasn't a joke anymore. It was an event. And the sheer size of this crowd escalated things to a whole new level. We're not talking about a little huddle by the door. This became a massive physical spectacle. The business's footprint expanded from a quiet storefront to a major traffic disruption. Cars were literally stopping in the middle of the street. Drivers were slamming on their brakes, rolling down their windows, desperately trying to figure out what on earth could possibly be worth standing on a sidewalk for 3 hours to get. And, well, you know how things work in our modern era. A physical spectacle never stays purely physical. Pedestrians walking by whipped out their phones. They started recording the insane weight, the gridlocked cars, just the sheer scale of the madness. And those videos, they spread rapidly online. The physical crowd mutated into massive digital virality. Everyone in the community, and soon far beyond it, was obsessed with the exact same question. Why are people waiting this long for pizza? Which brings us to Section 2, the psychology of crowds and human wiring. Because what went down outside that shop wasn't just some lucky accident. It tapped into some incredibly deep behavioral wiring. Once that question of why are they waiting was planted, the real psychology kicked in. We are inherently hardwired as a species to want what other people seem to want. It's social proof in its purest form. Let's move to and see how this builds into a predictable psychological chain reaction. Step 1. Crowds create curiosity. You see a huge group of people, you instantly want to know what they're looking at. Step 2. That curiosity creates attention. underlying engine of rapid business growth. Section 3, the hidden monetization system, or the plot twist. Because you're probably wondering, wait, how does demand create money if you are literally giving all your pizza away for free? Well, now what's really interesting about this is the part almost everyone observing this spectacle completely missed. The owner wasn't crazy, and he never actually intended to lose his shirt giving away endless free pizza. He had a meticulously designed hidden system running right in the background. Think about it. You've got hundreds of people trapped on a sidewalk for 3 hours. They're getting thirsty, they're getting incredibly hungry while they wait for the main course. So what do? They bought drinks, they bought sides, they bought desserts, and even more brilliantly, when people inevitably got sick of waiting in that massive line, the owner offered a highly profitable alternative. They gladly paid full price plus a premium just to skip the line entirely. He literally monetized the attention itself. The results of this orchestrated attention experiment were absolutely staggering. 1 week, that is how long it took. In just 7 days, this desperately failing, bankrupt shop completely transformed. It didn't just survive, it became the single busiest restaurant in the entire town. A complete 180-degree turnaround in exactly 7 days, purely by manufacturing a spectacle. So the crucial point is this. Look at the contrast here. Did the pizza actually change? Nope. The ingredients, the oven, the recipe, it all remained exactly the same as when they had 0 customers. What changed was the perception. The massive crowd, the virality, the ridiculous wait time, all of it artificially elevated the perceived value of the exact same product. People weren't suddenly lining up for better food. They were lining up because their perception of the food's importance had been entirely rewritten. And that brings us to our final section, the alchemy of attention and the macro strategy. All right, we have to zoom out from this one anecdote about a pizza shop for a second, because this wasn't just a clever local marketing trick. This exact dynamic represents the foundational reality of all modern dominating businesses. It's how the modern economy operates. The biggest brands in the world already understand a fundamental truth. Consumers are not purchasing physical products first. Long before a transaction happens, people are buying excitement. They are buying into the attention a brand commands. They're buying the status associated with having what everyone else wants. They're buying an emotion. The actual physical product is really just the souvenir you get to take home after buying into the feeling. And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate dividing line in business today. Once attention exists, money follows. It's really that simple. The most successful entrepreneurs focus on one single thing before absolutely anything else: getting people to care. If you can master this alchemy of attention, if you can turn complete invisibility into burning curiosity, the financial mechanics just naturally fall into place. It is the core difference between businesses that stay completely invisible to the world and businesses that rise up to dominate their industries. So, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to take away from our explainer today. Take a look at your own endeavors, your own mindset, or even just the brands you interact with daily, and ask yourself, are you just selling a product, or are you actually selling excitement? Because as we've learned, the businesses that truly explode overnight are the ones that realize the product is always secondary to the spectacle. Thanks so much for joining me today, and keep questioning the mechanics behind the things that capture your attention.
If you want to success in your life, we added, make sure to subscribe our channel Fineness Zero to become a successful business owner.